question is, what is the best method for pairing up the bragging buddies? What's the best method for pairing up the bragging buddies? And so it starts with the key situation. We want to have two bragging buddies who have the same key situation. We want to try to pair up a seasoned veteran with a newbie. One of the things to look out for are two new people together. If possible, we want to make sure we have at least one seasoned person with a newbie. Other than that, one of the things to remember is that, to paraphrase something that YP said at one point, you're not married to your bragging buddy. You'll have multiple bragging buddies going forward. Some will flourish and blossom into a long-term relationship. Others will kind of come and go. So what we want to do is start people out with a bragging buddy who they can coordinate their schedules. They're making a commitment to meet at least once a week. So those are some of the basic things that we look at when we're trying to pair up a bragging buddy. I have a question. What happens when one bragging buddy is tied to more than one bragging buddy? Well, first of all, as long as each person is honoring their obligations to the weekly meeting and generating systematic visibility, then it's not an allegiance problem. It's just a matter of being able to follow the system, follow the structure. So the idea is that having multiple bragging buddies is good. When we start getting into systematic visibility and how you're making people systematically visible, that's really where you have to be realistic on how many people you're building a deep relationship with, particularly on the first 4 levels of systematic visibility. So my recommendation is, if somebody has more than one bragging buddy, try to keep it on the same key situation if possible. However, in some cases I could certainly see where somebody who is a very active networker and wants to work multiple key situations, there's nothing wrong with that. Just make sure that they can keep up with the basics and let them decide and let their networking partners, their bragging buddies, decide if they're equal to the task. So if you have a follow-up question, just type it in and I'll try to respond to it. Michael is asking about webinar number 5. Webinar number 5 we pick up in a later lesson plan on the chapter level. See, what we have here is a dual process where we have a self-paced system and then we're rolling it out 16 lesson plans to the BNI chapter through the education coordinator. So webinar number 5 we roll out in, I think, actually a couple of weeks to the rest of the chapter so that they can catch up. So we don't skip webinar number 5, we just position it a little bit differently in the chapter setting through the education coordinator versus the DVDs on a self-paced track. So if you have a follow-up question, just type it in and I'll try to answer it. Joseph's follow-up question was, what happens when there is a member who does not have a willing bragging buddy to pair up? Well, then they simply go to a duo and they become a trio. And so that's why the tally sheet has 3 bragging buddy slots on it. So any oddball member can join a duo and become a trio. We just don't want to go more than 3, Joseph. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so now we have a question about the other columns. What do these columns mean? Basically what's going to happen here is that M1 is bragging buddy meeting number 1. M2 is bragging buddy meeting number 2. So these other columns will be used after various lesson plans. So this tally sheet will be used in many lesson plans going forward as we really gear up. Okay, the next question is, should the members move through Power Team Certified faster than just the 1 lesson plan per week like the education coordinator is doing with the entire chapter? I always encourage the members to go as fast as they want to go and don't slow down for the rest of the group. If you are motivated and can roll right through webinar number 5, go for it. No worries. It's designed for the go-getter to get going and get into systematic visibility. When we look at it from a chapter standpoint, though, and we start looking at the group and managing the group, we have to slow things down a little bit and reiterate things and kind of do things a little bit differently as a group. So that's why you're going to see a little bit, particularly early on here, of hopscotching around just a little bit as an education coordinator versus a self-paced member. But to summarize, definitely encourage people who want to go fast to go. If you're going to go on your own, though, you must go through the webinars in the order that they're presented. The only time you skip around is the way I'm guiding you in these trainings with the education coordinator and director support trainings. If people are going to do it on their own, they need to go through it straight from one page to the next. So hopefully that answers your question. If not, type a follow-up. Joseph asks, how long do the bragging buddies commit to each other before they decide to unpair from each other, typically when there are no results? No, normally what happens, Joseph, is once the bragging buddies form with another pair of bragging buddies to be a power team pioneer, that's kind of the logical time when they start doing a revolving door among the 4 or 6 and can get into some alternating schedules with their bragging buddy meetings. That's typically when it's going to happen. But also, as you say, if the results are not happening, if people aren't honoring their commitment, then yes, then they should disband and reform, either joining a duo to create a trio or seeking out another individual to form a duo. So those are 2 points when the bragging buddies will rotate, either stage 3 where you get into the pioneers, or if it's not working. Question on the audio side, yes. Yeah, it is. Okay, so the question is, who is using the bragging buddy tally sheet? And the bragging buddy tally sheet is being done by whoever the mentor coordinator role is, and they're compiling the information on the bragging buddy sheet. So the next question is, how do you fill out this tracker? Let's say that you got 20 business cards, and 12 of them was the business builder key situation. And so if you had 12 business cards that said key situation, you're going to pair those 12 into 6 groups of 2, right? So you'd have key situation, business builder, business builder, business builder, 6 of those showing the name of the 2 bragging buddies, right? Now let's say that there, instead of 12, there were 13. So you'd have, if there were 13, you'd have 5 pairs of 2 and then 1 group of 3. You with me? So that's how this section here would get filled out. This part here, this SVs means, have you implemented transactional visibility or not? Have you implemented situational visibility? Have you implemented a reverse visibility? And have you implemented the annual review? Yes or no? And then, have you created a referral? Yes or no? Have you created a golden goose referral source? Yes or no? Now, the answer to these questions will be gathered during subsequent lesson plans. I'm not going to leave you hanging, filling this out on your own. We fill these out in future lesson plans coming up fairly quickly.
The next question is, what is the process of dropping a bragging buddy and starting with a new bragging buddy?
Well, what the member should do is notify the mentor what's happened so that there's some awareness of what's going on. And then it's a choice. In a perfect world, we're going to have other members of the chapter who want to get started. Maybe they missed the first week, or you get a few weeks into it and somebody drops out. So it's really going to be a case-by-case basis on whether or not the now singular bragging buddy hooks up with an existing duo to create a trio, or get started with somebody new in the chapter and bring them into the Power Team system.
Okay, and our final question is, should the members be allowed to select their own bragging buddy, or should the bragging buddies be assigned?
Yeah, I think that there's going to be some gray areas on the best way to do that. I definitely encourage people, if they want to make adjustments among themselves, by all means. Here's how I recommend it be done. I recommend that people be told who their partner is. However, if they have a challenge, maybe there's a personality conflict, or maybe it's not that they don't like that person, but there's somebody that they really love who they want to be paired with, by all means, speak up, and it'll get rearranged at the chapter level as to what the best fit is. But I don't think it would be wise to just leave it open and pick your own bragging buddy. I'd like to see the person who's playing the mentor coordinator use a little bit of wisdom, if you will, by trying to match up people who are at different points of the program in BNI. Again, we don't want two newbies connecting at this level if we can avoid it. Try to mix in somebody seasoned. And sometimes, there are people with different strengths and weaknesses in the BNI chapter themselves. For example, you might have somebody who's an excellent communicator, a dynamic public speaker, and then somebody who's really, really good at what they do, but they might be a little bit introverted and shy. If it's me, I'm going to try to pair those two people up. I'm going to try to look at people's strengths and weaknesses and put together groups that complement each other. I know a lot of people, I'm flashing back to my 2 weeks in Southeast Asia where, we were talking about, this person is a high D or a high S, or, you guys have a lot of, modalities there that you can use to find complementary mix of people, and a lot of it just comes down to, as we say here, horse sense, good old gut feel. My recommendation is assign people into pairs, give them flexibility if they need to rearrange, and do it that way, and you'll have more productivity.